thought
you heal.
processes. We were just talking before the show about I was saying, look, if my house is haunted, I'm gonna be out there with a thing of gasoline, 100 pounds of tannerite. I'm gonna leave it a pile of rubble, and it's gonna be like, well, haunt this now, you fucking ghost. And Taylor was like, oh, so you believe in ghosts? And I was like, no. I think that 99.9999% of the time, no fucking ghost. There might have been one ghost or two ghosts ever, but I'm not willing to shut the door completely on that. And they, of course, all laughed at me. And then Boogie, you spoke up.
What did you say, Boogie? Can you repeat it for the show?
If you want, I will tell you the story about the time I met my mother's ghost.
Making me look
we'll
much
start out
less
with that.
insane.
We want to start it off upbeat, get people in a good mood.
Okay.
We started with Kyle being a crazy person that believed in ghosts, and now by comparison...
Not even believe in them. I believe in the possibility that maybe... I'm not willing to close the door and say, no, there are no ghosts, there never were, there never will be, no ghosts ever, ever, ever. It's bullshit. 100%. I can't say that.
Yeah, but you could say, like, yeah, but there's, like, no evidence for ghosts. So until there's evidence, they're, you know, let's just assume it's not real.
Well, look, it's one of those things that's sort of ingrained in the mythos of so many cultures. You know, everybody, there are legends about it, stories about it. Of course. That's what I believe is most likely. But there's that little grain of sand that might be that, you know, there were some Aztecian ghosts or something that haunted.
Aztecian.
Yeah, they were always into that human sacrifice and eat hearts and stuff. Maybe that, you know...
Do you know
there's that whole Day of the Dead thing, you know, that they do down there still?
Yep.
I can't wait to get to the story about Boogie's mom.
But I feel like we can't disprove any of that Pastafarian stuff either, right? You know, that God in his tentacle madness has placed all these archaeological fact-based carbon dating stuff throughout the planet in an effort to throw us off. They draw a link between pirates
a Scooby-Doo villain.
Dude, I hate
global warming.
the Pastafarian thing.
I love it.
It's just a way for people to kind of be douchey and arrogant about them being smarter than you, when really it's like if you were trying to convince someone who is religious to drop it and like show them by evidence, the best way to do it isn't to mockingly compare what they believe in to pasta in the sky. It's like that's just showing that you're trying to be a cunt a little bit, just a little bit.
That's my favorite part.
And what you should be doing if you actually want to change people's mind is be a little more compassionate and understand where they're coming from.
No,
you know,
my favorite part about the Pastafarian thing is that I enjoy all my like-minded cunts. Right?
Is that what they call themselves?
They call themselves Pastafarians, I think. Right?
So you call them cunts.
There's something to do with...
Yes. You self-identify as a cunt.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't call them cunts. I call us cunts. There's a slight difference.
I always know that I'm on PKA when we've always used the word cunt 40 times before the first 10 minutes.
I'm sorry, Mom.
That's just to ease people into this whole new upsetting layer of your life we're about to delve into. Because it seems like every time we have you on, it's like, fucking Boogie's on here. Let's jolly and cheer and let's have fun. And you're like, oh, that reminds me of the time I lost 6 dogs in a weekend. Like, oh, damn.
But that's what I'm good at, man. Like, that's they say you talk about what you know, you write about what you know, you create what you know, and this is what I know, so this is what I talk about, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong, the last 6 years of my life has been fucking amazing. But, you know, I had 35 years before that, and those 35 years make up the bulk of my life, and so most of my stories come from that. I can tell you about the time that my wife blew me in a beautiful hotel in New York City, you know, and that story exists too, but it's not nearly as interesting.
We'll have to get to that one. No, you captured my interest, Boogie.
I told that one last week.
You know,
but I want to hear about the ghost.
Let's get to the ghost.
So my mom passed in 2009. And, you know, I went to be by her side as she passed, and I held her hand even as she passed, you know. And I'll tell you one of the things, there's a whole story about that, too. And maybe we'll save that for the next PKA. But I'll tell you, you know, I was holding her hand, and they took off the machines, and they gave her some morphine to make sure she passed comfortably, you know. And, like, she was already in an induced coma. And it's so funny because I could kind of tell that she was not there anymore. Like, she was alive one second and not the next. But it was such, like, a minor thing. Like, you know, I expected, like, bells and whistles and for her soul to float up to the sky because that's what you think is going to happen. But no, her body is technically alive, objectively alive, and then it's objectively dead. The heart has stopped beating, the brain has stopped functioning, and now she's gone. And I sat there with her about 20 or 30 minutes after they said she was dead and just waited for something to happen. Nothing ever did. It was not magical. It wasn't spiritual. It wasn't anything. It was just, you know, meat. It was meat, you know. My mother was in there for 1 second, and then the next second it was just a pile of meat. And there's very, very little difference. So, as depressing as that is, But 6 months later or so, I'm sitting at home. This is about 3 months later. And it's my first Christmas alone without my mother in my life. And me and her had always been very close. Even though it was a shitty relationship, it was a close relationship. And I would go home and visit her every year for Christmas. I didn't have anywhere to go, and I'm sitting there playing World of Warcraft. And I feel this hand on my right shoulder. And I immediately recognized the feeling. It's exactly the way my mom's hand felt as I was holding her hand as she died. It's exactly the way that it felt. And so I immediately turned my head, and nothing was there, and I stood up, and I looked around, and my mother was a chain smoker, and I could smell smoke in the apartment. Nobody in my apartment smokes. And I said, Mom? Hello? Nothing. I look around, I look through the two doors, I kind of walk into the living room, nothing. So I turned back around, I sat down on my stool, and I start typing into guild chat what just happened, and then I feel the hand a second time on my right shoulder, and my brain says, don't turn around. Like, obviously you can't see her, obviously you can't interact with her, if she's really there, say whatever you gotta say. And so I said, Mom, I love you. And then I didn't feel the hand anymore, and then she was gone. Now, I have since spoken with a therapist about this, and the therapist says, honestly, I don't know, and whatever you want to believe is what you should believe. But I personally think, and I think the therapist also leaned towards, I was in a very grief-driven state. I definitely did not get as much closure as I needed. I probably never will. And my mind had maybe generated that experience or something to that effect to where it was believable. I mean, you think about it, your body makes you feel weird shit all the time, right? You shiver, you jerk, you're falling asleep, you feel like you're falling. Your body generates all kinds of weird shit all the time. My brain was in a position to attribute the weird shit that I was currently feeling to that situation. So I don't know that...
At, like, when you felt that hand, or was it more of like you immediately felt like,
I immediately recognized it as my mother, and I immediately was comforted by it. It was not scary or freaky at all.
That's what I don't understand about these ghost stories, is like I love the people in my life that I love, but as soon as they're dead, it's like, I want nothing to do with you, because I don't think that's the good version of you coming back. The good one is somewhere else. I feel like it's just...
Get out of here, Mom! I don't want anything to do with you anymore.
I'm the opposite. I would love...
Floats away. All sad.
Okay, it is within my nature to just shit all over Boogie's experience, but I don't want that. I would love to have it. I would, and I don't want to tarnish it or whatever. Awesome, Boogie. I'm glad that happened for you.
I don't truly believe it was my mother, so you don't have to worry. Be skeptical. I don't truly believe that's what it was. I still believe I generated it in my brain. But
my parents are still alive, but I would. If they were hypothetically dead and I could have even what you had again, I bet I would really value that. And
it was nice. And whether it be my mother actually reaching out at the grave to say, hey, look, I fucked up a lot, sorry. Or if it was just her trying to help me get through Christmas, or if it was my own brain just tricking me to try to help me get through that period of that time of grief, whatever it was very comforting, and I very much appreciated it.
It was very nice. Grandmother, if Ninny, that came back and was like grabbing my shoulder and stuff, like I couldn't deal with that. Like, get out of here! You go back to where they sent you, wherever that
demon.
Is. Yeah, demon. Get out of here, Ninny. Get me creeping up on me.
That's my thought process.
You had your time.
I would think it was scary more than comforting, because I would immediately jump to like this. They would know not to come back and fuck with me, because they would know I wouldn't like this. Like, there's something sneaky going on.
I visited my grandmother as she was dying, and I was hearing Boogie's story. My grandmother's wasn't anything like that. She was in the ICU, and you weren't allowed to come visit people in this section. Whatever level of care she was at needed to be infection free, and you couldn't just go see people. And I went to visit her, and I'm like, how do I get to the ICU? And they're like, no, you can't go back there. And I'm like, oh, I'm here to see, and I gave her name, and they're like, oh. Well, yes, you can go see her. And I'm like, dude, you get special privileges when they're dying. They give you the hookup. They let you go anywhere and watch them die.
At this point, you could shit all over her. She's not getting sick.
This is grief shit. You can deal with it.
So I
don't bother washing your hands.
In spite of the fact that you're not supposed to go to this part, with her, you were allowed to go to this part. I told her it was my grandmother. And I went to see her, and then suddenly, and I liked her. She had a pool. That's where I first learned to swim, and she used to always make like snacks and stuff for us, and she was, I know my father had a part of conflict, but I still don't know what that was about. All I know is that she always seemed to open her house to us and seemed to enjoy having us around. That was like the vibe that I got from her. So that was my impression of her. And I went there, and there she was dying, and I'm kind of like now what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. She's just laying there. I talked to her. I think I told her I loved her. And she didn't do anything back. She didn't tell me she loved me or anything. She just sat there dying or laid there. And
she was like incoherent then. Maybe.
Oh yeah. She was completely unconscious. I don't know.
Yeah, she wasn't spitefully ignoring you.
That's better. See, my grandmother was laying there dying.
I'm not wasting my last words on you. Yeah.
Oh no,
my grandmother was like laying there dying, and she's all yellow and jaundiced from her liver shutting down, and like she's not there all the time. But I go in there and she's like, "Oh, Kyle, I love you. You're my number one grandson," and like just gasping for air, and just we're both crying. It was rough, but she was there and just like dying.
They told
like something
me
from a movie.
Like, hey, if you want to see her while she's still alive, today's the day to go see her. And I went, and I feel like I didn't spend enough time there. It was maybe 15, 20 minutes, but there was also nothing to like do. Like,
she's not conscious.
Like I held her hand. She was still warm. Like I checked. Like there were almost no signs of life. And like you said, she was unconscious. And I'm just like I feel like I should say a thing. And I just. And when I left, there wasn't really the closure. Like I wanted this kind of like goodbye wrap up.
Was it just you two in there at the time?
Yeah. And I felt like I was supposed to do or say something more than I did. It was just like, there she is. She's dying. It's going to be sometime between now and like 3 days from now. And like, what do you do exactly?
Did she know you? Like, did she have the wherewithal to even know you were there?
Absolutely not. No. She just was.
So then, question: are you happy you went, or is it something you wish you could go back and have a different memory as the last one of her?
The first. I'm happy I went. I feel like if I hadn't gone, it would have been out of some like selfish laziness, not prioritizing her, something like that. I have all those. People can feel differently in terms of last memory, but for me, I still have all those other memories. Like they didn't go anywhere. I just have one more where I came to see her in the hospital at the end. That's what it is for me. So, hey, welcome to Painkiller Already.
I will say that I feel like, because I saw my father off. I saw him a few weeks actually before he passed, and then I saw my mom. I was with her the day she passed. I think it's very important. If anybody out there is ever considering, it's sad to talk about this kind of stuff, but I think it's good to give advice in this situation. If you ever have that opportunity to get that closure with somebody you care about, it's very important. And even if you can't do anything for them, and it doesn't feel like it would do anything for you, in the end, it does a lot for you to know that you did the right thing, you did your best. And it'll really help you put it together. And I'll tell you that I had my best friend of 30-some years. She, a girl that I dated in high school. We knew each other since we were 3 years old. She passed a year ago and 3 days, almost to the date, a year and 3 days ago. And I asked her. I said, I saw her about a year before she passed. And, I was like, do you want me to come and visit? And she's like, well, I'm not really myself with my brain. She had cancer in her brain. She's like, I'm not really myself, and I don't really want you to see me this way. And selfishly, I didn't really want to see her that way. I wanted to keep the other memories. And now that time has passed and she's been gone a while, I really wish I had seen her one last time. So if you ever have that opportunity, you really should do that. It's the right thing to do. And it's not just the right thing to do for them. It's the right thing to do for you.
I don't know. I don't think I would have wanted to see my grandmother if she was in a really diminished capacity where she didn't know who I was.
Right. Well, how young were you, too? That's a big thing, I bet.
It's a couple years ago. Like maybe 3 years ago. Three years ago.
Yeah, but if you're under like 17, I give you a pass for that kind of thing.
Yeah. That can, especially if it's really bad,
I think that if I were like really like demented, like suffering from dementia, really out of it and only had like little glimpses of, I don't know, clarity,
lucidity,
like,
right?
If I said lucidity, like if I said to someone like, I don't want you to come see me anymore, like I don't want you to see me like that, and they came back when I was having a moment of lucidity, I think I'd probably be a little bit upset because I would feel like I was being cheated almost out of my legacy of like, oh, you remember Uncle Taylor? Like, oh, he was so funny and fun to be around, instead of like, oh God, just see him laying there like
All those
what was
bones,
that?
rancid
Like,
soup.
I just feel like that would be the worst thing in the world, to have like a moment of lucidity where you tell everyone, please don't come visit me anymore. I don't want you to see me like this. And then you have another one as they're all watching you die, and you're like, oh, you fuckers. Like, oh, now this is going to be on the fucking fridge. A picture of me frail and dying instead of the one where I was playing badminton with a beer or something.
No, but then you show them the YouTube videos. I'll show you the YouTube videos of you like pissing in yourself and like oh, I was gonna that's your legacy. That's your fucking legacy.
Chatting with grandma.
Like in Favorite More.
I feel like
Yeah.
there's a deleted or unlisted video of me snuggling Taylor when he's drunk. Does that ring a bell at PAX?
Snuggling?
What did I do to you, or what did we do?
Wasn't there some snoring? I don't remember. You got
Maybe
There,
snoring?
a Gold Glove. No.
Do I have it
no,
mixed up? I
Yeah, I
remember
don't
you
know.
asked me to take it down, and I did. I don't remember what it
That
was
might have been
of.
the one snuggling. Or not so much we as you.
No, you were definitely involved. I mean,
Who was the big spoon?
That's probably me.
no.
I don't know.
Well, you
At the
think
time,
I
was
curled into him?
definitely-
The big spoon is the cuddler. He's the one like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to spoon you guys, but let me be honest, that'll be ladling if I'm doing it.
Aw.